So today here is the sixth day of Christmas. This is the feast day of Saint Egwin of Worcester. He was the Bishop of Worcester there in England, the third bishop, I believe even a Benedictine monk. So his feast day here, December 30th, apparently 717 around that time. He is understood traditionally to have passed on. St. Egwin there, he entered the clergy in a minor order. However, the common people, the clergy, and even the king, they all had demanded that St. Egwin become a bishop. He was known as a fair judge and a protector of orphans and widows. Many miracles had been attributed to him in his lifetime. Some miracles had been attributed to him in his lifetime. And one of the things we see here, Psalm 68, verses 4 through 5, say, sing to God, sing in praise of his name, extol him who rides on the clouds, rejoice before him, his name is the Lord. A father to the fatherless, a defender of the widows, is God in his holy dwelling. And St. Egwin there, he's understood to be a defender of the widows, and I believe even the fatherless there, and that's what really sets him apart, as it were. I mean, that's how people remember him. And we see that God cares for widows and the fatherless. God defends the cause of the widow and the fatherless. It's according to Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 18. God in Deuteronomy chapter 27, verse 19, curses anyone who withholds justice from the fatherless, the widow, the foreigners. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17 teaches to learn to do what is right and to take up the cause of the fatherless, defend the oppressed, plead the case of the widow. There's even a woe for oppressors of the fatherless. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 1 through 2 issues a woe against those who make unjust laws, make oppressive decrees, deprive the poor of their rights, withhold justice to the oppressed of God's people, make widows their prey, and rob the fatherless. And Isaiah chapter 10, verse 3, and the next verse there mentions a day of reckoning. So, this is some serious stuff. I know Scripture even says that true and faultless religion basically has a lot to do with the care of the fatherless here and widows. St. James chapter 1, verse 27 teaches that religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after widows, orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. And here, we come to Christ's teaching on hosting a dinner. Jesus said to a man that had invited him, when you host a dinner or banquet, do not invite your friends or brothers or relatives or rich neighbors, but when you host a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind, and you will be blessed, since they cannot repay you. You will be paid at the resurrection of the righteous. So, St. Egwin there, he knew these things very well, and he was certainly very well acquainted, I'm sure, with sacred scripture. And he's understood to be a just judge and somebody that really cared for the widow and the fatherless. And that is an important thing to remember here, sixth day of Christmas. And when we look at that, we look at the fact uh, that God is love. We look at the fact that uh, Christ is King of Kings, Lord of Lords. We look at the fact that the state is basically put under Christ's authority. Um, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet, uh, is what Scripture says. It says, "My Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet." That's understood to be referring to Christ and the resurrection and ascension into heaven. And so, Christ basically rules the nations with an iron scepter. The the way thus we treat the poor and those that are oppressed, the way that we treat the fatherless, orphans, it makes a big difference. I mean, it makes a tremendous difference. Um, and if we mistreat people that are fatherless, or people that are orphans or widows, or people that are blind and poor and lame and crippled, if we mistreat those people, then, I mean, it is a terrible, terrible thing. I mean, it is something that that really, really causes God to not be happy with us, but instead it can arouse His anger even. And so keep that in mind here, 6th day of Christmas. God be blessed. God be praised. Bye for now.